Welcome to The Dead Life. Here's world-renowned medium, Alison Dubois.
Welcome to The Dead Life. I'm Alison Dubois. Today, I want to expand on some of the topics from my video clips that circulated last week on my Instagram and my Facebook fan page, because some of you responded with some very, very deep and excellent questions. So I thought this would be a good time to take a deep dive into some of the questions that you asked and follow up on it, because I think a lot of people have the same questions that many of you do. You can follow me on Instagram at Medium Allison, on my Facebook fan page, or on my YouTube. I'll be seeing some of you at my live event in Scottsdale at the McCormick on September 6th for mediumship and life readings. Go to AlisonDubois.com for ticket information. September will bring us eclipse season, which is a great time to start your money and love intentions. Pick up a bottle of my intention-setting vodka Divination 22 at One Handsome Bastard in Scottsdale, or order a bottle at BigThirst.com or Divination22.com. Divination 22 will give your intention-setting focus and a boost in the right direction. So it just gives you that little added insurance policy in moving in the direction and drawing in and manifesting what you want in your life. So I hope you like it. And on top of that, you can have an excellent martini. So win-win. So if you haven't seen my video clips on social media, check them out and leave your comment or question. I absolutely adored the beautiful stories that people shared about their pets crossing over. It was very poignant and heartfelt. And I think some of you might enjoy even experiencing it through the lens of my followers on social media. And I think you'll be able to relate to a lot of them, because most of us have lost a pet or a loved one. And that's what a lot of the questions surrounded. So I'm going to go through just a few of the questions that I had posted to me that really stood out. So one follower wanted to know, what do you think or know is beyond? Do we have a God? Do we have multiple gods? Is religion true, or are we better off being spiritual? I think this is such a taboo topic. A lot of people don't want to ruffle feathers, but for me, I just tell the truth. And if a feather gets ruffled, I can't help that. So I'm going to give my response to this, because I think that many people have this question. And since I've gotten to see further than a lot of people have in this physical world in this lifetime, I like sharing that with other people so they can imagine, what is beyond the veil. So, do we have a God? There feels like, and very much seems to be, a source, a God, whatever you want to call this presence in our world, in our life, in our universe, is a very real existence. So I think it would be arrogant to think that we are the all-knowing, all-seeing, but as we look around, and even on social media, you can see there's a lot of know-it-alls out there that have done literally no research on anything, but they have very deep and hyperbolic feelings on topics that often they know nothing about. Obviously, we cannot be the most evolved presence in the universe. So I think it will surprise none of you that my experience, and from what I've seen on the other side through the dead, what they have allowed me to see is, yes, there is a God. There is a presence. Is religion true, or are we better off being spiritual? So I find this interesting, because when I went into mediumship professionally, I really went into it open-minded, because all I knew were the experiences I had that applied to my own life in childhood or as a teenager. And that's all I could speak to. But once I started reading clients, which happened in my 20s, once I started doing that, I started being shown more by the other side, because I was interacting with the other side more frequently. So when this would happen, I would notice that there would be, say, for Jewish, they'd show me challah bread or braided bread. And that's how I would know a mother's Jewish. Or I'd see a crucifix on a chain around someone's neck, or they'd show loved ones lighting candles for them, which I always correlate to Catholicism. So they would show certain moments and instances that would have a religious overtone to it. However, I wasn't seeing religion being everything that is on the other side. What I was getting from the readings had more to do with the empathy and the ability and application of love in our life. So what the dead were saying and what they were showing me had more to do with the kind of person they were in this physical world, not just how they treated others. It had more to do with connections that they made, being true to themselves in the sense of knowing right and wrong and what resonated with them, but not acting out of ego, but acting more out of concern or an ability to empathize with people around them, animals around them. It seemed to have to do something to do with more of a sense of a strong soul or a strong spirit and truly living your life in this world. And the more I was doing readings, the fewer instances I really saw of religion. Now, I'm not saying religion isn't important. I think it brings communities together. I think that anything and everything in the world you can point to and go, oh, well, they did that. That's because of them. That's everywhere. There's going to be bad within everything good. The two seem to, unfortunately, have to go together to show contrast, but that's for another day. Anyways, it seemed to me that the religion was a means of living piously or trying to live a correct life, but people that were following the doctrine that were mean-spirited or failed to love the people around them, that doctrine doesn't save you because you align with like frequency on the other side. So if you were a mean-spirited, sort of wicked person, and I don't mean a good wicked, I mean a bad wicked, and you didn't feel for other people and you were selfish and self-absorbed and everything had more to do with your individual experience where you don't care about other people, but hey, I go to church every Sunday and I help out, that's not going to do it. I've noticed that on the other side, it has more to do with your energy and your frequency level. And that's what gets you basically in these realms that you want to be with friends and family and people who were like energy. If you were a very mean-spirited but very devoted religious person and you thought what you were doing was right, but it hurt people, that's something you can sort out on the other side, because that's your energy is going to determine where you end up, which I had talked about a little bit when we talked about people who are violent criminals and how they sink to the lower frequency entities on the other side. Other destructive tear down energies is really where they find their home on the other side. So it seems to have more to do with the energy within and what you exude out into the world rather than the doctrine itself. So I'm just giving a completely unbiased, what I've seen view to you in the information that I've been able to collect. And I ask everybody, watching and listening, draw your own conclusion. I'm not telling you not to believe in religion. I think that it has certain upsides to it. And then there are some religions that are a little bit more judgmental in nature and don't seem to serve to elevate people unless it's on an ego level. So I'll let you guys decide what those are. I can't like shout out individually what they are because I don't want to tick a bunch of people off out there. It's your religion. You do what you want to do. That's your right. And that's your doctrine. So, but from what I've seen, it seems to have more to do with how we live our life, how we treat people. And ego and selfishness seem to be the basis of what sinks you into lower levels of frequency on the other side. So I hope that helps. So we're going to take a break. I'll be back after a word from our sponsor. Okay. So on my reincarnation video clip, one follower wanted to ask about, here's another doozy, here's another taboo question for me to answer, but I'm going to do it. Aborted babies and what happens to them. So she wanted to know, and I think it may have been for personal reasons. So it wasn't to be gross or to, bring you down. It's, I think a lot of women, especially the ones of the generations that are young now, will have to deal with many of the downfalls of what can be associated with abortion. And I get it. It's emotional. Even my generation, I know a lot of people from when I was growing up that went that route. So I can say to you that they recycle back into the family just like a miscarried baby or a baby that had some sort of abnormality that couldn't survive birth or only lived a couple of weeks after birth. I see the aborted babies in the same place as those, but they seem to recycle back into the families rather quickly. So there will be some that maybe, I don't know, hang out and it takes them a little longer to find the vehicle into that particular family, and they'll wait for that. But more often than not, I see the baby that wasn't being had in the future. It's almost as if the woman, we'll say young woman, just painting a picture, has an abortion because she's young and the guy's irresponsible and she's like, I can't do this. So we'll paint the picture there as an instance. And then she falls in love and gets married down the road after already terminating a pregnancy when she was younger, and then has children of her own. From what I've seen, the baby she didn't have would end up being one of the ones she has in the future. It could also be a niece or nephew, because it could be her sister or brother that ends up having that child that brings them into the world. So I hope that helps. I know that there's some people out there, it's a very divisive topic, and I don't really want to get into that part of it. I'm just talking about the soul itself. It's almost as if the baby, the soul of it, has an understanding that the mother was in pain or was in a bad place in her life and wasn't going to be able to take care of it properly. And I find that more times than not to be the case, where the baby has a sense of understanding that it wasn't time, but then they're given another ride into the world down the road. So now that we've established that babies come back into the families, I think that's the bottom line here. Doesn't matter how the pregnancy ended. It has more to do with the baby's understanding that it will find a way into the world, and it just hitches a ride in the right vehicle or a body that can sustain it and is healthier than the one that maybe it had. So I find some solace in that, knowing that that they find a way to live the life that you would have wanted for them. So then I had another interesting Instagram message from a follower. She wanted to know if her deceased father, who died when she was 3, could have reincarnated as her son. So the family sees a lot of similarities between her deceased father and her now son. So I thought this was a good question. I think a lot of people have this question. I think I've touched on it before, but for all the new listeners, I will talk about it again. So when somebody comes back, and I know that her dad died when she was 3, when somebody decides to come back, it's usually because all of the people that they love have died and no longer need their intervention or for them to save them. And that is not the case for her. She's still alive and she has a son. So her dad would not want to recycle back into this world yet. He's got work to do in protecting them. So I thought that was a really good question, because I know a lot of people will say, oh, the baby or this child reminds me so much of my dad or of my mom or a sibling. And it gives us some comfort thinking that it's them. But here's what it actually is. The deceased loved one sent a part of themselves back to you in the form of that child, something to help you heal and something for you to love that reminds you of them. So it's not that they reincarnated, but that child carries some of their energy, because that baby and, say, her deceased father worked in concert knowing what they were doing. So that child's coming into this world almost with a calling card saying, look, hey, I look like your dad. I act like your dad. I use the same words he used. It'll be things such as that that'll be common when a person's died and wants to send part of themselves back to help somebody heal. My feeling is that her father sent a part of himself back in her child, because she was only 3 when he died, and she probably has no memories of him, and that hurts. So he sent her part of himself, in the form of this child that will remind her of her dad, what the person she didn't get to know, this pivotal, all-important person in her life, her daddy, that she didn't get to know. And so he sends her back part of himself so she can create memories now, and it heals some of those wounds of her not knowing him as she watches her son grow. And people in the family say, your dad did that, when they normally maybe wouldn't even mention it to her if that child hadn't been born. But now that the child is here, they have all these reminders of him, and so it comes up. And that's why they send them a sliver of themselves for us to love and to help us heal in this lifetime. And I love it. I'm here for it. And my youngest daughter, Sophia, reminds me a lot of my dad, who died right before, he died when she was 3. And I chose not to have any more kids, because I'm like, no, this third one's like, she's the perfect baby. But I thought of having a 4th to see, if maybe that sometimes we have a baby thinking it's going to heal that loss for us. But I chose not to take that route. But some people do. And often the baby is going to carry the traits, the characteristics, the physical traits of that person that you lost. And but Sophia, my youngest, has my dad's sense of humor, obviously not reincarnated because she was here for 3 years before he died. But she has all of his mannerisms. She's a dancer like he was a dancer, and she's hilarious like he's hilarious. And she can talk anybody into anything, just like my dad could. They have that silver tongue, So when you see traits of someone you love that strongly in your child, it heals something. So I'd love to hear you all comment on if you've had a part of your wound healed by the birth of your own child, or if you feel as though you have a niece or nephew who feels more like your own child, which it probably was in many instances. So that's why people will feel like they favor one over the other. It's not that they love one child more. It's just one's easier, or reminds the parent of somebody who can heal that wound that was left when they lost them. So it's very interesting. Just so many layers to life. And so many, you can't do that, you can't do that. I grew up knowing my brother was a favorite. I mean, that was just a given. So I don't need to hear from any whiners out there. If you don't agree, cool, that's fine. I don't, it doesn't matter to me. So, but for those of you that want to share your stories as far as the reincarnated children or children that have helped you heal those wounds, I'd love to hear that on my Instagram. Okay, let's see. So I've got so many questions on so many deep levels. So we're going to take a break. I'll be back after a word from our sponsor. So I receive a lot of emotional stories from my Insta followers regarding our lost loved ones watching over us. So obviously this is sort of a beautiful vision that we get of the other side, a time that that person went back to, what they might look like, how they might dress, rid of disease or pain, free from whatever took them out of this world, that they have that peace inside of them, that sense of being whole again, which is great. But then I also saw some not so rosy messages from children who had a parent absent from their life. And I think this is important to touch on as well, because not all kids have great childhoods. I'm always really happy for people who do, because it's so nice to hear, and you all deserve that. But there are some out there that didn't have the same experience that you did, and often it helps to create the character we're supposed to be in life and send us down the path that we truly belong. And that's fine. But I just felt like I needed to answer this for this person so that she understands that why her dad would want to be around still. So she kind of thinks, why would he want to watch over me? He never seemed to really love me or like me, and we weren't close. And so she said, what if they were a very grumpy dad who never showed love or affection to you? And that happens. Parents, have their own wounds before we ever come into this lifetime. If you had a parent who had those wounds and maybe even took them out on you, the pain that they had from their childhood, or through one of those, well, I didn't have a great mother, so I didn't know how to be a mother to you, but then expected you to figure it out. So there are a lot of those parents out there, or the dads that just weren't around for you to know, or started another family and moved on. All of those things happen and more. In those instances, when you have parents that are mentally, emotionally disconnected from you, on a soul level disconnected from you, and you just feel you're sort of living in their house, and it doesn't feel like it does for some of your friends when you're at their house and how their life seems. I get it. I get why she would feel like he wouldn't be around. I will say that once we die, our wounds heal. So when her dad passed, whatever his pain was, whether it be from World War II, and he saw things that he couldn't forget, and he kept everything inside because that's how they coped. There are different stories, different backgrounds, different reasons for people to be destroyed within. And so no matter what her dad's story was, as soon as he crossed, those wounds slip away from him, the ones that happen in the physical world. And he also would gain an understanding of why the people who hurt him did the things to him that they had. There's a sense of recognition, and also what happened to that person to make them do that to him then. So there's a greater understanding on the other side that I find important. And a wave that washes over us and removes the things that sullied us through life, that stuck with us and affected how we treated others. So with her dad, once he crossed, he also reverts to an age that he was the happiest, or at least before he received those emotional wounds. So for him, he's no longer carrying that sort of callous exterior, the anger, the ego, the letting go of the one woman he loved out of ego because he couldn't open his mouth and say, don't go. There are all kinds of scenarios. So for her dad, he would go back to a younger age with a sense of understanding now that he's cleansed, basically, and feeling purposeful, and also recognizing how he hurt her, or how he may have hurt his children and other people around him, how they were disappointed when he didn't show up to a graduation, or she didn't hear from him on her birthday, things of that nature. Once he gets that awareness, all he wants to do from the other side is make amends. So the reason your dad is very much around you is to make sure that he can save you if it's in his power, to buffer you in life, to guide you, to whisper in your ear at the right times so that you have a better result in life than he had. They show love from the other side that we were denied in the physical world. So they can be at every Thanksgiving dinner table, or they can never miss a birthday again. So they spend their time being there for us after they die, waiting for us when our time is up, so that we can then heal with them and see that they were there all along. That maybe her dad even not just saved her life when a car accident should have taken it, or, he'll show her the places he was throughout her life when she had a baby or got married or, needed him. He'll show her where he was at that time. So the sense of healing on the other side is non-comparable to anything in our physical world, because we do have so much more insight, awareness, strength, empathy. We get it on the other side. We see the big picture, and we're pretty short-sighted here in the physical world. That's why we're in the physical world. It's physical things. People get caught up in that and think that's what matters in life. Those are the people that don't live, and when they die, all of that didn't matter, and they find that out. So be careful in the physical world. Stretch yourself to be bigger, to be grander, and to make amends when you can. But for the people that didn't, they definitely do make it up to us in their death. So I hope that helps her to know. And if she wants a relationship with her dad, it's about connecting with him and just saying, Dad, I want you in my life. I understand you made mistakes. I just want to move forward, and maybe even an I love you, and you'll start getting more connection from him. And if you didn't love him because you didn't know him well enough, a sense of, I forgive the times you weren't there. I want to move forward with you in my life. And I want you to make it up to me and be in my life and be a part of it. Send me signs, and I'd love a visit. Okay. So one woman wanted to know what it means when someone dies and you share a dream with your sibling. Is that a visit or just a dream? I think everybody listening right now in unison is saying visit. It's very rare to share a dream at the same time that your sibling has one after a parent dies. That's clearly your mother telling you that she's there and not to feel alone, and that you have each other, but she's letting both of you know that she's still with you. So absolutely a visit. A visit feels palpable. It has intention. It has real meaning. And it feels as though they were right there. And many people are angry when they wake up because it felt so real. and dreams are not like that. So tune in next week to hear my sit down with Mary Albanese, animal communicator. I think we'd all like to know about the missing pets cases she's worked, as well as her pet mediumship readings, bringing through people's deceased pets. Thank you for listening. I'm Allison Dubois. This is The Dead Life, and to all of my believers out there, don't stop believing.
Join us next week on The Dead Life, and don't forget to subscribe now to get notified of every new episode.